Good morning and welcome to yet another edition of Richard's Rants. As you know, I always tend to wish you the sentiment of the morning, that promise before anything has gone wrong. And that is what I am bringing to you, hoping to bring to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. As promised in the previous rant, we did need to go into that whole branding, programming, destiny situation a bit more. I did trip and stumble into it. So for this one, I went a little bit more into the rape. And I saw, well, actually, a long while ago, I did ask on my status if maids don't be raped. Because if this thing is so serious with the male female violence, then having a maid, I think, is like, delivery of your food daily. So I did stumble on an article. I was advised, yes, that they are, and they don't report it for fear of losing their job, etc. And on that same newspaper page, I also read that people went for interviews and get raped. Now, again, these things, I did sales for a decade. Now, I'm a guy, so I would get it that I didn't get raped. So I get it. But I've met customers and prospects all over the place, and I'm traveling. And I was, well, the only time I was ever robbed was coming home from an actual job twice. But it blows my mind. I've been on so many job interviews, and someone made an advance on me once, a female, and I think I freaked out too much and behaved dotish about it. Um, in hindsight, yeah, that was a good move, but I didn't feel like she was gonna jump me, and if she was, I didn't feel like I was gonna not be able to escape. I'm assuming that these interviews were in offices and stuff, and even if it wasn't, how it's like I'm not understanding the connection. I'm not understanding how somebody could literally get all up inside of you. I don't understand this fear that women feel, and I'm really starting to think that it is either genetic or it's taught. Now, this article came up from Indonesia. The rapist is a 50-year-old man, and he decided that he was in love with his niece's 28-year-old maid. And his unwanted advances were going on for quite some time, but the maid decided that she wasn't going to act on it because she didn't want to lose her job. And on the day in question, what he did was that he came out of the shower wearing nothing. He had on nothing but a radio. No, he had on a towel. And he hugged her from behind and she elbowed him off. Okay. And then, sometime after that, I can't remember the semantics of it, but somehow they end up in his room and he rape her. And then he also fingered her. That's important for the next part of the story. And he tell her, well, keep quiet and I will give you some earrings. She'd take the earrings and then give it back. So I have a feeling it must be was some wonderful will or something. Not victim blaming, but she took it and brought it back. So they reported it. The guy's defense was that he can't rape because he has erectile dysfunction. Hence why I mentioned the fingering. And they had to get an entire doctor involved to prove that he could have. Don't know how they did that, but the doctor said that yes, he was capable of achieving an erection and therefore penetrating with his penis, causing a rape, meeting all the requirements. He was fully qualified, certified, and verified as a rapist. So he was supposed to get licks like what Bungie Garlin sing about, but he was too old for licks, so he get a decade in jail. Okay. All right. And then I learned that Gandhi, he wasn't a rapist, but he wanted to test his resolve to celibacy. So he sleep naked next to his underage grand niece. And this also goes in line with, that scary part of East Indian culture, whereby the daughter's virginity is a gift unto the father. I mean, Gandhi is the best father ever. So, well, some African people would disagree because his early teachings were all racist and he didn't like black people. And of course, India has their caste system that is based on your complexion. And the darker you are, the worse that you are treated and the lower station in life and all of that. But nobody's perfect. Six of one, half a dozen of the next. We're focusing on this aspect of it now. But today, in most cases, women have equal rights. And in the last rant, I would talk about, you being raped. Why not stab the person with the nail file? I've since also looked at um, nail polish remover, which is also flammable. Um, High heels. That heel, that's a serious situation right there. And apart from the nail file, you have the nail clipper with the pen knife in it. I'm just not getting why women are not feeling comfortable to defend themselves. Even your handbag, you could actually tie that around somebody's neck, twist it a couple ways is a compromising position. So I don't know. I don't know. I know that I'm missing something and I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I just do not see women as victims or prey. And I do not see men as these horrible aggressors either. But the statistical data is there that men are violent. We are. We're violent to each other, we're violent to women, we're violent equally. Rape was actually a war, weapon of war that you would use to disarm your enemy. So, you would actually rape your enemy and they would feel so emasculated they will pat down. That was actually a thing. That actually was very prevalent among colonialists and their slaves, specifically Jamaica. Jamaica got the biggest, baddest slaves. That's also probably why some of their women voice so deep and whatnot, and the big and the buff. As you see, it's just that I get little flashbacks of the first time I saw Lady So and that kind of situation. But uh, the point is that the slave owners or the colonialists would actually rape the male slaves, and that will dehumanize them and shame them because that's the difference between men and women. The female slaves even would take the rape and they'll give birth to their mulatto babies and whatever have you. But the men, when they got raped, they would feel so bad about themselves because they could not defend themselves. So, fast forward to today, the legacy of that practice is that Jamaica is and probably will always be one of the most homophobic places to live ever. The colonialists successfully took away all of the pleasures that they can ever experience from anal and oral sex. Poor things. Now, our society is going through a transition. We have people that don't even want to identify as male or female, and then we have people that are adamant that their body doesn't match the chemistry of their brain. All of this is to say that there's a melting, there is a equalization happening. Men are being taught to be more sensitive and that it's okay to be that way. Men issues are being dealt with through traditionally female means like counseling and therapy as well, socialization as well. So, in the light that we are making the male human experience more gentle, we may need to balance that by making the female human experience more aggressive, less submissive, more strong, more dominant. You know, a female is not an object for play, pleasure, or reproduction. Is an entire human being and should not be afraid to walk the road, and their fear or comfort should not be dependent on the behavior of somebody else. It has to come from within, just like everything else, love and self-confidence and pride, or it has to come from within. You have to know how you're going to defend yourself and what could happen to you and what can't happen to you, and take the necessary steps. You're grown, you're adult, and you're capable. But if there is this genetic programming in our genes that tells us otherwise, can we actually reprogram it? Or is it just evolutionary? Are we going through that evolutionary transition right now, which is why things are, all topsy-turvy and weird and fluid and all of that? I think we might be on the cusp of something. But for now, we are still looking at the world through the old lens that is governed by branding and stereotypes. There was an article whereby the police was almost beaten, and that's so not funny. I'm sorry I laughed. But the police were almost beaten in Maloney. You see, what happened was they had a gun shootout and some people get bullets, but apparently the friends of the bullet ridden wanted to save them. So it could have been a stray. And they saw the police jeep coming, so they flagged it down and was like, hey, 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 it's about that time. We need some policing. We need to get these people to the hospital. They get shoot, they dead end. The police officer, however, made them aware that he doesn't have enough gas in his van and he has to go to the so they cuss up his ass and they was going to beat him like a snake in the road. But instead, what they did is that they transitioned to somebody else's car and they leave him be. Now, the residents did not believe him. So my takeaway from that as it relates to the branding and all of that is that we don't have trust in the police officers and we do not have trust in them when we live in particular areas like Maloney. So they did not believe that he did not have gas. I don't even fully believe he didn't have gas because whether or not he had gas really wasn't the issue, in my opinion. Because if it is he's in Maloney, it means that he could put the people in the car and go to the gas station that is on the highway there in McCoy. And then from there, he could have continued and gone to Mount Hope, which is where they send most of them anyway. Or he could have put them in the vehicle, take them to Maloney Police Station and transition. Or he could have get on the radio and call for backup. Or he could have get on the radio and call for the backup to hand over the victims to and or bring a bottle of gas. But he treated like if it is they was asking him to deliver something, some food or something, he's like, well, I know gas there, boy, so that's gonna make a turn and come. People was in the process of walking into the light. So for these reasons, and the police are wearing that brand well, that we just can't trust them. I don't know if we need to raise the bar for the qualifications, the intellectual part or the deductive reasoning part, the problem solving part or the flexibility part of it, or I don't know, but they're really crappy overall. And I've witnessed it myself. When Richard called the police when he was living Valsain was wonderful. When Richard calls the police in Mover, shit. That's if they even come. When Richard was reported by an employee to the police called most humble. When Richard was reported to the police by a tradesman in Mover, living in Mover, they come most aggressive, and Richard also had a gun to his head. So it's that is their brand, and despite what Uncle Gigi is doing, that remains the brand of the police. And some would even argue that he is contributing to it. And then on the police side now, this is Malonians, so they always carrying on with the. I don't think the word. I'm looking for a least offensive word that. All right, I don't know the Gatorian ways. Let's go with that. All right, the Gatorian cultural customs and practices, and he didn't want to be caught up in that in the same way. So that is their brand and their stereotype that's coming from their brand. Then we went lower down and we saw that the government is getting laptops because no child will be left behind with the corona education. And I read that article, like skimmed it, and then I went back because I expected to hear how much money they was going to steal. And I don't know where the money coming from, but because that's the government's brand. That's what you come to expect from them. But to my surprise, they actually reached out and they got it sponsored. I personally think that they should have reached out to local people and gotten it sponsored, like Oscar Francois slash Agostini and Prestige Holdings and Ansa McCall. But they reached out to UNICEF and people of that, some European something, and at least it wasn't China because I mean, just now it wouldn't. I just hope we pay back them loan or that the information on YouTube is wrong. Either one I'll be good with. That they're colonizing through money and you can't pay them back, so they're taking whatever they bill as collateral. Yeah, I really hope that that's just a conspiracy theory. And then we have an abused mom pleading for help. She got raped, she had a child, she got raped again. No, she fall in love, she had another child. She's sleeping in somebody cupboard, and it's just a whole state. And I trying to figure out. any sort of semblance of logic, and I can't. I can't even say if it's branding, if it's genetic, if it's circumstance, if it's I really don't know. I really don't know. But what I do know is that there are always consequences for actions. And after the first child, okay, you were raped, you decided to have the child. You had no place to go and all of that. I'm not sure why you would repeat the exact same thing with the second one, unless it's selfishness and inability to make those decisions. Even if you are pro-life, why not properly give the children up for adoption or drop them off at a state home and tie your tubes? You already had two. You're sleeping in a cupboard. I mean, that's just my thought. And there are consequences to everything. Even in the sports section, that, I'm not too keen on the sport, but that stood out on me because it came right after the article on the mother that Sri Lanka was fined for a slow over. And I could get behind that. Not that I watch cricket or that I think that it is bowl slow, but with T20, it has a fixed amount of overs. And if it is you really want to win by any means, I guess you could TTV. So they'll fine you. And that's interesting to me because it goes back to the human nature. The game that you're playing, not even important. It's important to people because they want to watch humans. Always watching mirror neurons, we could resonate, we could no, not that we could resonate. The game could resonate with the viewer, and we could experience the excitement and the joy. Maybe we wanted to be a cricketer, all that kind of thing. It's just like porn. So, as always, go back to porn. This rant might end up being cathartic. I'll come out as a sex offender, a sexy sex offender, sexy. Anyway, um, a sexy sex offender, like Ted Bundy. Oh, all right. So, why would you want to win by any means necessary that they have to find you? You throwing a ball and another man hitting it. Oh God, behave your damn self. You're not curing cancer or changing the world. Or it's not like the lives and the balance, of this existence is being jeopardized. Is a game you're playing. It's the same thing with all athletes. Why it is you had to dope up yourself to run and, you know, is it because the brand that you have is to be a winner, to be on top, to be the best? Otherwise, you just don't know yourself, so you're going to do it by any means necessary? Or is it a genetic disposition to cheat, to do things easier, to just get through, you know? Why is it that all over the world black people were enslaved? Why is it all over the world they are still in the lower strata of economic prosperity? Why is it, if all civilization came from Africa, as soon as we lose the pigmentation in our skin, we became explorers, from the Vikings to the Europeans, um, and these business people and all of that. What is it? Even Chinese, for crying out loud, is it that melanin makes you, mellow? What what is it? Is it lack of choice? I don't know. I really don't know. But whatever it is clear that society is in a transition. Something else just came to mind. I just want to touch on that. In the Muslim culture, in my opinion, women have a, I don't find it's equal. I think that if chicks had to cover up the tricks, then so do dudes. If chicks, if dudes could get more than one wife, so should the chicks. But they believe in modesty of the female, well, both genders, but more so the female, because they believe that the man is built to be attracted and lust over what he sees. So if you limit what he sees, then good to go. And I have not really seen or heard of many Muslim women being the victim of rape and those sort of things. So is it just that acceptance is needed? Like this is what it is. Example, you don't decide, well, I feeling to wear red today. So I going to put on this red trailing bathing suit and jump in the shark infested water because I am my own person and I'm feeling empowered and I'm wearing this red for me. But that is what women just do when they parade naked. Now, in that analogy, men would be the sharks, primal, and you will get bite. Um, Sparrow sing about that, telling the girl to come home at 6, although you know you're big, because Tuesday night when them men get tight, they don't care who get bite. So is it that I just need to accept that my gender is aggressive and rapish, or do we need to just make some changes? I mean, this is the end of part two of this whole branding thing because the thought process really was that we are led to believe certain things. But I don't believe that anymore, and there isn't even enough evidence to suggest that it's genetic, like we don't have a choice. Because even if you decide that you want to change a behavior, you can. It is a bit difficult, but you can change it. So even if you are aggressive or have a tendency to rape, I believe that if you believe it is wrong, you wouldn't do it. There was another article that I read that stated that this woman was gang raped in Italy. British on Italy for vacation. You know, that's not the kind of sausage that she wanted. And the defense of one of the rapists, the successful defense, was that, you know, he's sexy, he don't really need to rape. She was just lying down there so she'd get some dick. And he get through with that defense. Most normal. So I think at the end of the day, even if we are biological machines and our genetic code is a programming, we have the capacity to be self-aware and to change things. Even our bodies naturally do that. Unfortunately, it's called cancer and it kills, but that is what cancer is. Your cells become self-aware and they're like, I'm not ready to die. I want to live, which is the same. We will be the cancer cells of the earth. So, regardless of what this existence is, we do have the power to mold it. The problem with that, though, is that if everybody is special, nobody is. So if everybody has the power to do it, then nobody does, which again would mean that you have to find your individuality as part of the community and just do the best that you can do. Don't be a rapist. Don't be a victim. Don't be a trophy unless you want to be. You know, just do the best that you can do and know that you are capable of anything. Subscribe if you like the vibe and comment towards our betterment. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Richard's Rant. Vibes.